stared at my phone, Mom's text message glowing like an accusation. Third time this month they needed help. The amount kept growing. $5,000, $8,000, now $12,000. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I should say no. My financial advisor had warned me months ago. They're taking advantage of your success. But then came the follow-up text. Your father's very stressed about the company. You know how his heart is. Classic mom emotional manipulation wrapped in concern. I transferred the money, adding it to my spreadsheet. $487,000 in loans over the past 2 years. None repaid. It hadn't always been like this. When I started my investment firm 5 years ago, they'd barely acknowledged my career. Playing with stocks, Dad called it. But when my first major deal made headlines, suddenly I was their brilliant daughter. Brilliant enough to fund their lifestyle at least. My office phone buzzed. Miss Carter? The Anderson Group documents are ready for review. Thanks, Janet. And the other matter. Your parents' company financials? Just arrived. It's concerning. I opened the file on my laptop. Carter Manufacturing, my father's pride and joy, was hemorrhaging money. Bad investments, outdated technology, and I froze, staring at a series of suspicious transfers. They were using my loans to cover up major losses. My phone buzzed again. Thanks, sweetie. While you're at it, the country club dues are coming up. I closed my eyes, remembering last month's family dinner. The company's doing great, Dad had boasted, ordering another $200 bottle of wine on my credit card, of course. We're expanding into new markets. Really? I'd asked, knowing their real numbers. Which markets? Oh, you wouldn't understand, dear. Mom interrupted. Business is so complex. I almost laughed. Complex. I just orchestrated a $2 billion merger, but somehow I couldn't understand their failing manufacturing company. Speaking of business, Dad added, we could use a small loan. For expansion. How small? Just $50,000. You're doing so well, surely you can help family. I'd transferred the money before dessert. They never suspected I was tracking every penny, building a case, waiting for the right moment. Now looking at their company's real financials, I knew that moment had come. My intercom buzzed again. Miss Carter? The Anderson Group is ready to proceed with Project Phoenix. Project Phoenix, named after the mythical bird rising from ashes. How fitting. I picked up my phone and typed, money sent. By the way, isn't the shareholders meeting next week? Mom's reply was instant. Yes. You should come see how well the company's doing. I smiled, opening a locked drawer in my desk. Inside was a folder labeled Carter Manufacturing Acquisition Final Phase. I'll be there, I replied. Wouldn't miss it for anything. What they didn't know was that through a series of shell companies, I'd been quietly buying their company's debt. Every bank loan, every missed payment, every desperate refinancing, all now owned by my firm. They thought I was their personal ATM. Next week they'd learn their ATM owned everything. My phone buzzed one last time. Great news, sweetie. Your father just ordered a new company car. We might need a tiny loan. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened their company's organization chart and started marking positions that would need to be replaced. Starting with the CEO. The week before the shareholders' meeting, I tallied the numbers one final time. In total, my parents had borrowed $1.2 million from me in 3 years. Meanwhile, through strategic debt acquisition, I'd gained control of 78% of their company's liabilities. Everything's prepared for tomorrow, Janet reported, placing a thick folder on my desk. The board members have been quietly briefed. And my parents? Still completely unaware. Though, she hesitated, they did request another transfer this morning. $25,000 for a business emergency. I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, and a dozen texts. Sweetie, small crisis at work. Just need a tiny advance. You're not answering, is everything okay? The company really needs this. The company. Always the company. The same company they claimed was thriving, while bleeding money through mismanagement and luxury expenses. I called them back. Emily, finally. Mom's voice dripped relief. We have a situation, Dash. Let me guess. You need money. Just a small loan, Dad chimed in on the other line. The company's expanding so rapidly. Really? I pulled up their latest financials. Is that why you're 3 months behind on supplier payments? Silence. How do you know that? Dad stammered. I know everything, Dad. The hidden debts. The fake expansion reports. The money you've been funneling into personal accounts. Mom's voice turned sharp. You've been spying on us? No, I've been protecting my investments. All $1.2 million of them. That was family helping family. Dad protested. Family. I laughed. Family doesn't treat their daughter like an ATM. Family doesn't lie about stealing her money. We never stole. Save it for tomorrow's shareholders meeting, I cut in. Oh, and don't bother ordering that new company car. The purchase request has been denied. You can't deny company purchases. Dad exploded. You're not even involved in the business. I smiled, though they couldn't see it. About that, see you tomorrow. After hanging up, I reviewed the presentation for tomorrow one last time. Slides showing years of mismanagement. Documentation of every suspicious transfer. And finally, the new company structure with my name at the top. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. We're your parents. You can't do this to us. I thought back to all the times they'd dismissed my success. Just got lucky with stocks, they'd tell relatives while asking for another loan. Our little girl playing at business, they'd laugh while maxing out my credit cards. Tomorrow they'd learn who was really playing at business. Janet knocked again. Final document arrived, the full audit report. I opened it, though I already knew what it would show. Years of financial manipulation, all covered up with my loans. Should I send the usual transfer to your parents? She asked. No, I replied, closing the report. The ATM is officially closed. The shareholders' meeting room fell silent as I walked in. My parents sat at the head table, faces frozen in shock as I took my place at the podium. The board members, all recently briefed on the situation, avoided eye contact with them. What are you doing here? Dad hissed under his breath. I adjusted the microphone. Good morning, everyone. As the majority debt holder and new controlling shareholder of Carter Manufacturing, I'll be conducting today's meeting. Mom's coffee cup clattered against her saucer. Majority what? Perhaps we should start with the audit report, I continued, clicking to the first slide. As you can see, over the past 3 years, the company has accumulated significant debt. For the next hour, I methodically laid out their financial mismanagement. Every personal expense charged to the company. Every loan hidden from the board. Every time they'd used my money to cover their tracks. This is ridiculous. Dad stood up, face red. You can't just walk in here and dash. Actually, I can. I pulled out a document. This is a complete record of the $1.2 million you've taken from me. Money that went directly into covering company losses you hid from shareholders. The board members murmured, shuffling through their copies of the report. We're your parents. Mom's voice cracked. Everything we did was for this company. Really? I clicked to the next slide. Is that why company funds paid for your vacation home? Your country club membership? Your weekly spa treatments? Dad slumped in his chair as the evidence mounted. Their perfect facade was crumbling and everyone could see it. The board has already approved the restructuring plan, I announced. Effective immediately, I'm assuming the position of CEO. Dad, you'll be offered a consulting role, if you agree to financial oversight. You'd demote your own father? He whispered. No, I'm saving the company you nearly destroyed. The choice is yours. Work under new management or retire. Either way, the endless loans stop today. Mom stood up, tears streaming. How could you do this to us? How could I? I turned to face her. How could you treat your daughter like a personal bank? How could you lie to shareholders, to family, to everyone? We needed the money, she protested. No, you wanted the money. There's a difference. I clicked to the final slide, the company's new organizational chart. You had a successful company, but your greed nearly ruined it. And you had a daughter who would have helped properly if you'd just been honest. The board members nodded in approval. They'd seen the recovery plan I'd developed, the innovations I planned to implement. Unlike my parents, they recognized real business acumen. Security will escort you to HR, I concluded. They'll explain your options. Choose wisely. As they were let out, Mom turned back. We only wanted what was best for you. No, I replied softly. You wanted what was best for yourselves. The company became your ATM, and when it ran dry, you turned to me. Now the roles are reversed. Later that evening in my new CO office, I found a photo buried in the desk, me at 5 years old, sitting on Dad's lap in this very room. Back when he was a true businessman before greed corrupted everything. My phone buzzed. Dad had texted, I'll take the consulting role. And, I'm sorry. Below it was a message from Mom, we didn't deserve your money. Or your love. I placed the photo on my desk and began drafting the company's new financial policies. First rule, no personal loans no matter who asks. Because sometimes the best way to help family is to stop enabling them. Sometimes love means saying no. And sometimes the daughter they treated like an ATM becomes the boss they answer to. Since this story was designed to be a complete narrative in 3 parts, I'll create an epilogue to show the aftermath of the events. Plug. 1 year later. I stood at the podium during Carter Manufacturing's annual shareholders meeting, presenting very different numbers than last year. Revenue up 40%. Operating costs down 25%. Employee satisfaction at an all-time high. In the front row, Dad sat quietly taking notes, a far cry from his former CO persona. The consulting role had humbled him, but also reignited his genuine passion for manufacturing. When he wasn't trying to maintain a lavish lifestyle, he actually had valuable industry insights to share. Mom had chosen a different path. After 3 months of refusing to speak to me, she'd enrolled in a business ethics course at the local college. Now she volunteered at a financial literacy nonprofit, helping other families avoid the mistakes she'd made. And finally, I concluded my presentation, our new employee development program has produced remarkable results. Leading this initiative is our head of training, Mr. Carter. Dad stood up, straightening his more modest suit. No more designer labels or gold cufflinks. Thank you, Ms. Carter, he said formally, respecting the professional boundary we'd established. The mentorship program has paired 30 veteran employees with our new hires. I watched him present, remembering how a year ago he could barely look me in the eye. Now he was thriving in a role that matched his actual skills rather than his ego. After the meeting, he lingered behind as others filed out. Emily, he said softly, your mother and we're attending a financial responsibility workshop this weekend. Would you consider joining us for dinner afterward? I studied him carefully. No credit cards. No loan requests. No business discussions. Just family, he promised. We'd like to know more about your journey. The real story, not the one we ignored while asking for money. That evening I found an old bank statement in my desk, the first loan they'd ever asked for. I'd kept it as a reminder of where this all began. Now it seemed more like a lesson learned than a wound carried. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom, proud of you. Not because of the money or success, but because you were strong enough to stop us from destroying ourselves. I pinned their first loan request next to the company's latest financial report, from failure to success. From enabling to boundaries, from ATM to CO. Sometimes the biggest deposits we make aren't in bank accounts, but in the lessons we teach those who took us for granted. The real return on investment? A healthier relationship built on respect instead of requests. Because sometimes